The Philippines and the United States are considering the expansion of their annual Balikatan military exercises to include Japan, following the historic trilateral meeting of the leaders of the three countries in Washington last week. In a forum, President Bongbong Marcos welcomes the idea of having Japanese troops participate in the Balikatan War Games, carried out under the Mutual Defense Treaty between the Philippines and the U.S.
I don't see any reason why Japan should not be part of those exercises in the future. And that again is, I think, is a good move for us to make, simply because it will make it easier for us to work together and to coordinate together, and again, so that we can do the most, focus where the problems are, maximize the resources that we have, so that we can maintain the peace and stability.
The president also expresses optimism over the newly formed alliance with the U.S. and Japan, forged during the trilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Meanwhile, the president placed down speculations that the U.S.-Philippines-Japan alliance was directed towards China, clarifying that the trilateral meeting is merely a strengthening of relations among the three nations. Security and defense to maintain the freedom of navigation in the West Philippine Sea was tackled during the meeting. President Marcos further reveals that the Philippines and Japan are now finalizing the operational details of the planned Reciprocal Access Agreement. According to Marcos, the Reciprocal Access Agreement would not be the same as the Visiting Forces Agreement with the U.S., which, he says, had caused problems due to the presence of American troops in the country.
It's just a question of getting the language down and defining precisely how it's going to work, the logistical systems and how that's going to work. But it should not take very much longer. I think we're very close to completion on that. It's not going to be as if it's their base and the people, their seamen will come down and will go into the city and go into. Well, I don't think that's part of the agreement.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. slams the contradictory stance of former officials of former President Rodrigo Duterte on the supposed gentleman's agreement it made with China when it comes to the West Philippine Sea. In a forum, President Marcos says he tried to get in touch with former officials of the Duterte administration who might have been involved in the supposed discussions.
I've tried to get in touch with former officials of the previous administration who could possibly have been involved in these discussions. And I have to tell you, I haven't gotten a straight answer out of anyone.
Marcos says the officials have contradicting stories.
One party says, one person says there's no agreement. Another person says, no, there was talk, but it's only status quo. No, there was. And another one will say there was an agreement. It's all very maraming palusot.
Former presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo previously denied that Duterte made such a pact with China, contradicting his fellow ex-presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, who made the bombshell revelation last month. Panelo was backed by National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, who served as the Armed Forces of the Philippines chief during Duterte's administration. However, President Marcos is convinced that there is a secret agreement.
I do not think the Chinese government, I don't think Beijing will just make up and just out of nowhere say there was a secret agreement when there was no such thing. All right, so I think, to my mind, that is sufficient to me to prove to me that there was such an agreement.
President Marcos has previously said that Duterte should clarify what pact he supposedly entered into with China and what he purportedly compromised into that agreement. Davao del Norte 1st District Representative Pantaleon Alvarez says his call for the country's police and military to withdraw their support from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. cannot be deemed seditious. In a statement, Alvarez says his appeal is not the same as advocating a coup d'etat style of withdrawing support from the current administration, because it was done in what he calls a peaceful and orderly manner. Alvarez adds that it is the right of the soldiers to withdraw their support from the government if they no longer believe in its direction. However, Alvarez admits being emotional when he made that plea to the police and military. He says he was carried away because Malacanang is supposedly dragging the Philippines into a war with China. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police and Armed Forces of the Philippines have rejected calls from Alvarez to withdraw their support from Marcos to force him to step down.